Welcome to the first episode of Howard's University. I am the TA. I am Dr. Charles Cole, and I'm very, very honored and happy to be here with a living legend, somebody who is a mentor of mine and somebody I've learned just a ton from. And I've been waiting for these sessions. I've been wanting to go to Howard's University for a long time, and we've pinned him down. He is one of these folks that tells these stories that's just so rich and just so brilliant, and just the life that he's lived. And now we finally got a chance to have the man, the myth, the legend here. Dr. Fuller, thank you so much for doing this. This is going to be a 10-run series, somewhat like The Last Dance. We just talked about, man. But thank you. I'm so honored. You all will hear from him the majority of the time. Like a good TA, I will be in the background running things, grading papers, and answering emails on his behalf. But Dr. Fuller, can you just briefly tell these folks who you are that don't know you?
Yeah, first of all, Charles, let me start out by doing two things. I want to just thank you so much for making this happen. I mean, I want people out there to understand your genius, man, and just, your commitment to, dragging old people like me into the 21st century and using these tools. And so again, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I do want you to do a better job of recognizing your own genius because it's really there. The second thing I want to do is acknowledge that today is Malcolm X's birthday. And, I put it out there on my Twitter feed because, when Martin Luther King's birthday happens, there's this, big to do, and there should be. And of course, a lot of people who celebrate Martin Luther King's birthday now, wasn't celebrating him when he was alive and didn't support what he was doing when he was alive. And it's even at a whole nother level when it comes to Malcolm X. So I think for people like myself, whose life was changed because of Malcolm X, it's incumbent that as long as I'm alive, that I have to recognize him and thank him for the contribution that he made in my life to change my whole life. Because I think it was April 3rd or April 5th, 1964. I never can remember exactly that date, whether it's the 3rd or the 5th. I was at Corey Methodist Church when Malcolm X delivered the Ballot or the Bullet speech. And what most people don't realize is that it really was a debate with Louis Lomax, because Lomax had written this sort of negative book about the nation. And so if you read the Ballot or the Bullet speech or you listen to it, he starts out by talking about Brother Lomax. And some people thought that was the person who was the head of the church. It was actually Louis Lomax. And so the church was like packed, man. It was like, it had like a balcony and, the main floor. It was a huge church. And man, like I was sitting like on the front row of the balcony. And I had this straight look at Malcolm X. And I remember walking into that speech as like one kind of Black man and left entirely different. So I know like one speech can change a person's life because it did for me. So I just wanted to recognize that. In terms of who I am, like right now I live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I was born in Shreveport, Louisiana, but I lived most of my life in Milwaukee. Graduated from North Division High School in Milwaukee. And because I could play basketball, I got a basketball scholarship. And so I integrated Carroll College at that time. It's now Carroll University by myself. I think I'm the first Black male to graduate from that university. Went from there to get my master's degree in social work in Cleveland. That's why I was in Cleveland when Malcolm gave that speech. And I also got involved with the Congress of Racial Equality. So the first time I went to jail for, quote, civil rights, it was actually in Cleveland, Ohio. And because I got the first Whitney Young scholarship from the Urban League, I owed the Urban League a year after I graduated, after I got my master's degree. So I worked for a year at the Chicago Urban League. And then that's when the Great Society program started. And I went down to Durham, North Carolina to work in the poverty program, organization called Operation Breakthrough. And that's where I learned to be a community organizer. I learned so much from, all of the people down there. Like, I know some of you all have seen the movie Best of Intentions. And Best of Intentions was about Ann Atwater and her friendship with a Klansman. But I was the one who knocked on Ann's door and turned her into a community organizer. And so I just love the people in North Carolina, everything that they gave me and everything that I learned from them over such a long period of time. And so I've been fortunate and blessed to be able to have engaged in this parent choice movement as a part of the broader education reform movement. And I guess the thing that I like most is the fact that young people like you, and I see Jasmine and I see Christina and people like that who I've had the opportunity to interact with over all of these years. And I've learned so much from all of you and from you, Charles, and young people like you. And so I'm looking forward now to the next stage of my life, because I'm retiring from Marquette University on June 30th of this year. And I'm also going to step back from some of the leadership roles that I've played in the movement more broadly. And I look forward to being in a position to support people like you and other people who are in this. And the only thing I want from all of you is 25 years of struggle. So if I can get 25 years from you, brother, I'm good.
Well, man, I'm down to be there with you. I feel like I need to go up and have a conversation with the good folks at Marquette. We got to figure out a way to keep that legacy going. Well, we started this Howard's University. Again, I said a little bit of it in the beginning, but partially it is just the legacy that you have and the stories that you have that I've been blessed and privy to have access to. I just know there's a ton of people that would love that and benefit from it. So we're gonna get those stories out of you. We're gonna drain as much knowledge out of you as we can. But you've done a really good job of grabbing folks like me and other people in these spaces and just making sure that we knew what was up and making sure that we had some real talk. So look, man, we ain't CNN. We gonna keep it popping. We're gonna keep it moving. And this we own it. So you go wherever you need to go. There's no censors on you. There's nobody else that owns this. We say what we need to say, and you tell us what you need to tell us. In this first session, 1 out of 10, we wanted to reflect on some work that you and I did together. And in doing that work together, there were just, we wrote an article. And do you want to kind of share just a little bit about why we did this and what this was for you?
Yeah, I do. First of all, I want to make sure people know it was your idea to do the article in the first place, which is really cool, right? So I think from my perspective, Charles, we were trying to do several things. I think the first thing that we were trying to do was to model intergenerational collaboration, right? Because one of the things we talk about in that article is how that doesn't happen as often as it should in our community, right? Because you get to a point where the elders, like me, look down on younger people and, all of this, you don't know what it was like when I was struggling and blah, blah, blah. And I remember one time when I was young, man, this old dude told me that, he had socks, that was older than me. And so I told this fool, man, you need to go shopping, man. You need to get you some new socks. So from the elder point of view, there's that. And then from the younger point of view, many times it's like, man, we're not trying to hear what you got to say, old man. Go sit down somewhere. So it's that refusal to link up together, right? So that you can take advantage of whatever experiences and knowledge that I have to pass on, based on my experiences. And what I can get from you is a new energy and a new way of looking at the same situation that I may be looking at, but you coming at it with a fresh set of eyes. You're coming at it with new tools to use. And so I think what we were trying to do was to just show that there can be this intergenerational collaboration. I think the second thing we were trying to do was to make a case for parent choice, but to make a case for parent choice from the perspective of Black people who've been oppressed. And so I've always seen the parent choice issue as a self-determination issue. It's not a market issue. It's framed by social justice, but it's deeper than that, because what is talking about is the right of a people to be self-determining, the right of a people to define, to the extent that they can, their own liberation. And so trying to define their own liberation is caught up in being able to decide what levers of power you want to use to try to make that happen. So I think we were trying to talk about it from that perspective. I think a third thing that was really important is that we were coming at this notion of allowing people to define us by using guilt by association. So this idea that because you and I supported parent choice, we supported Donald Trump, we went at that in a very real way. I mean, because both of us have been very clear that he is one of the most despicable human beings walking the face of the earth, and that we have no relationship with people like that. But the fact that he supports parent choice, and then some of these so-called liberals and progressives who are always trying to tell Black people what we need, want to then somehow, like you're a supporter of Donald Trump because you support parent choice, because they don't have no clear ideological argument. So instead of having like a real argument, they want to get you tied up in knots, talking about, you support Donald Trump. So we were very clear at coming at that particular framework. And we put it within the context that as long as educational atrocities are being committed against our children, we're going to fight for whatever lever we can. I mean, it is instructive to say on Malcolm X's birthday, by any means necessary. And what Malcolm was trying to do was to say, look, man, if you're Black in America and you only got one way to do anything, you're in deep trouble. And if you don't understand that, if somehow that reality escapes you, if you have even a modicum of objectivity in your body, if you look at what has happened with COVID-19, if you look at it on the education front, in Milwaukee, for example, what happened was the teachers union and the administration of the Milwaukee Public Schools that I support had an agreement that they would do no work during the shutdown. And so for like 6 weeks at least, a lot of kids got no education whatsoever, none, zero. And at that same time that they were doing that, our school, like other charter schools, and had handed out Chromebooks, had online instruction, had a platform. Because we started not with what was the interest of the adults. We started with what is the interest of our children and how is it that we can serve our children, right? So the fact that our parents and our children had that option was critical to their educational success. And so once again, in the article, we were trying to explain why we were for trying to ensure that our families had some of these tools for self-determination. So I don't know what you thought about the article, but those were
No, I thought the same thing, and I thought it was a dream come true to be able to do that with you. And I think too, the other thing around it, which was interesting, was the Trump stuff, right? Like, I don't like that guy. Like Trump breathes air. That don't mean I'm gonna stop living. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I will always say to people. I mean, what the issue that we're talking about was, how much evidence do we need to see that these schools, that these systems in these districts are not prioritizing Black people and Black children? And I do find it pretty appropriate that we're starting this on Malcolm X's birthday, because people like Malcolm X because it's a cool thing to do. They don't really like what he said, because I can tell by the reaction that they have to other things that are far more tame than what he said. Like, let's take that first statement, right? By any means necessary. So when Trump won, a lot of people was like, well, I just can't do any kind of advocacy work no more because I don't want to get associated to do. Like, that's as Dave Chappelle would say, that's a brittle spirit. If that's what it takes to knock you off the mission that you say is your lifelong goal and mission, to make sure that we have academic liberation for Black people, because you scared that somebody gonna have something to say about you when you know it's not true, then you ain't really here to fight for the kids that you say you want to fight for. Like, there's a reason, man. This is not by accident that every city you go to, every place you go to, is Black kids that are getting the brunt of terrible education. The same way it's not surprising to me that COVID-19 is attacking us disproportionately, right? Like, remember, just not that long ago, Black people thought, they had us thinking that we couldn't get it. They had us thinking that we was going to be safe and all that stuff. And then we asked, yo, what's up with the numbers? Let's disaggregate these numbers. And then we saw who was getting impacted the most, and it was us. That's why we wrote that. You know what I mean? Because we know anybody that's paying attention ain't surprised by who's out here dying from this stuff. You know, so, you know, what's your message that you have, Dr. Fuller, for folks that just can kind of be pushed off their square so easily if this is the fight that they signed up for? Because you've been doing this for how many years now?
A couple. Yeah, but okay, so let's talk about several concepts here, right? The first thing I want to talk about is I always get amazed when something happens and it affects poor people and poor Black people and brown people, and people start saying, oh my God, there's inequities in American society. And what floors me is, you know, did y'all just figure this out? Oh, this shine a light on the inequities. My argument is the light has been shining on the inequities from Black people ever since they brought us here, man. And so this idea that it takes COVID-19 or Katrina or some other thing to like expose the inequities in our society is insane, man. I mean, I get that now people are all worked up for the moment, because one of the things we've learned about history, and right now I'm reading, and in a book discussion, I'm reading Du Bois's Black Reconstruction, and I'm on chapter 5, and really just understanding like how this country got built, man. Because at the same time, I'm reading The Peculiar Institution by Kenneth Stamp, which is one of the seminal books on the history of slavery, right? Because there's a connection between how Du Bois talks about slavery and the impact of slavery. But anyway, so what I'm trying to say is that anybody with a modicum of knowledge knows that we've been oppressed forever. And so the idea that, oh my God, you know, like, oh, the COVID-19, you know, oh, our oppression, come on, man. I'm like, this has been there. And so now what you're seeing is the manifestation of it. And what I want our people to understand is that there ain't gonna be no quick rebound, man. First of all, Trump and his allies, they've decided that our lives actually don't matter. We were talking about Black Lives Matter. These folks have made a calculation that I'm looking out here and seeing who's dying. So hey, Chris Christie said, oh, we can accept a certain number of deaths. He wasn't talking about his family. He was talking about our families. He was talking about the families of the people who working in these meatpacking places. He was talking about the elderly in these nursing homes. He was talking about people in Black and brown communities where the virus is having devastating effects. They're not, and in fact, the Supreme Court justice in Wisconsin was talking about the fact that the people in the meatpacking plant were getting the virus, and her comment was, these ain't regular people. So any of y'all who like confused out there about what this is all about and how it is going down, man, I feel sorry for you. I just don't even know how to. I don't even know how to help you if you so like unclear. And so we need to understand that from an economic standpoint, this is going to be devastating, man. It's already devastating for a significant percentage of our people. On the other side, it's going to be even more devastating. And just even if you think about the fact, if you go back and look at the Great Depression, right, there are economists out there who will tell you it was 10 years before, quote, America recovered from the Great Depression. Black folks didn't never recover. And so I just find it hard to believe, man, that we got Negroes out there who don't understand this, who don't understand what this all means. So that's one thing.
But let's go deeper into that, though, right? Let's go deeper into that.
Yeah. So,
I mean, so like, what? Why do you think that is? Like, let's put us on the couch and let's have that talk. Like, why do you think it is that we don't believe fat meat is greasy and that these folks is out to kill us? You know what I mean? Like, let's have that talk, because we say these things, right? But like, because we seeing it happen live. Like, how much? I don't need to I don't need any more examples that you don't love me. I don't need any more examples that I'm expendable to you. I mean, listen, we you know about the 8 Black Hands, and we had that they went over the book in the last episode, and they asked me about my mindset, and part of my mindset was how I think is, listen, my parents struggled with drugs and were in and out of jail. If the people that is in their DNA code to protect me weren't able to do that at some times and points in my life, why is it that I expect more from people that have shown me that not only do they not care about me, but they hate me. They hate my existence. Why would I keep depending on that? Am I just hopeful? Is it that we just want to be hopeful and we all want to get along? Or does it allow us to not have to do anything about it if we don't accept it?
It might be part of that, Charles, but since we're on Malcolm's birthday, Malcolm said a couple of things. One of the things he said is that anybody who don't understand their history is destined to repeat the same mistakes over and over again, right? So if you really don't know nothing about your history, if you really don't even understand how we got here, I mean, because there's still Black people out here who believe that the first Black people who were brought to this country were brought here as slaves. That's not true. The first Black people were brought here as indentured servants, man. And it was later on that the decision was made to enslave us. And so even like a little point like that, or don't understand like why slavery became such a critical institution for the foundation of this country. And so if you don't understand that, then when you read Faces at the Bottom of the Well, where Derek Bell talks about the fact that racism is not just some tangential idea in American society, it's woven into the fabric of American society. So therefore, when you see racial inequities It isn't something that just rose up over here to the side. It was built into the foundation of how the country was made, man. And so if you don't understand that history, then it's really, really difficult for you to comprehend what is happening now. Why is it happening that way? So the first thing that Malcolm said is that you have to understand your history. But the second thing that he says that ties into this was he said the greatest tragic thing that they did to us was to teach us to hate ourselves. Mm. And so for a lot of us, man, like we still believe that we're oppressed because we made the wrong individual decisions, or we're oppressed because we don't want to work hard. What was slavery, man? When people start talking about Black people, don't work hard, you're talking about my grandmother, my mother, who worked hard every day of their lives, man. So don't talk to me about, oh, this is because we don't work hard. Oh, because we didn't make these decisions, that decision, blah, blah, blah. We got to understand that it is built into the very framework of American society, right? And so understanding Derek Bell from that aspect. But the other thing that Derek Bell teaches us that's important for this decision, going back to that whole thing with Trump, Charles, was in silent covenants, Derek Bell, and I got to know Derek Bell, and we became friends, and he taught me a lot, right? And so Derek Bell talked about this concept that many of you have heard me talk about before, but it's called interest convergence theory. And so what Derek Bell explains is that the reason why Black people made progress during the Civil Rights Movement, for example, was because at that point in time, the United States was trying to convince the rest of the world that democracy was a better form of government than communism. Hard to do that with Bull Connor sicking dogs on people. So at a certain point in time, the white ruling class called this fool and said, hey, man, you got to quit sicking dogs on people because you're messing up our larger thing here. So at that moment in time, our interests converged with their interests, and we made progress. But that interest was never permanent, man, because we came at it from two different worldviews. And the other thing that's important in understanding that, and it goes to that the thing about Trump, we have to understand, Charles, the difference between principle and strategy and tactics. So, for example, in my book, I started out my book with a meeting that I had with the younger George Bush when he was governor of the state of Texas. And I knew for a lot of people that was going to be the last page they read, right? Because for them, my meeting with George Bush was a matter of principle. For me, it was a matter of strategy and tactics. However, I would consider a meeting with Donald Trump, or even being in a room with Donald Trump, as being a violation of principle. So what I'm trying to suggest is that each one of us has to draw the line on what is a matter of principle for us versus strategy and tactics. And so as long as you're clear, then you have to be willing to take the weight and the criticism and whatever comes when you make what is for you a strategic or tactical decision and not a decision on principle. And so like over my life, man, as you know, Charles, and it's still true today, and I don't really care, like I've been called a revolutionary, a counter-revolutionary, a militant, a Uncle Tom, a tool of billionaires, on and on and on. And I've always asked myself, how does one lone Black man get to be all of that? And what I conclude is because I ain't gonna let y'all define me. I'm gonna define myself. And I don't care what certain people say about me. I literally don't care, man. And I'm trying to encourage you, Charles, to get to the point where you don't care. Now, it took me a while to get there, right? Let's be clear. I used to, be mad and coming at these people and blah, blah, blah. But I'm at a point in my life, man, where I literally don't care because I only got so much time left out here to fight, man. And so
Don't call her.
I spend worried about what Diane Lavitch or somebody like that says about me is a minute away from helping my students complete their papers. It's a minute away from trying to help me make sure that our school survives. I don't care what these people say, man, because I'm absolutely clear on why I am doing what I'm doing, the purpose of it, who it's for, who it's tied to. And I think all of us have to get to that point, because if you get to that point in your life, you may pursue a number of different roads, a number of different strategies and tactics. But what you have to be clear about is it's still tied into what you're about as a human being. And that for me is what this issue of principle is. And that's how I view like a concept like interest convergence theory. And then going back to what Malcolm said about the importance of understanding our history. And then this whole notion of the worst thing they did was to teach us to hate ourselves. And let me just say one thing on that, and then, you need to move me on now. But what I'm saying, man, is like, all of y'all out there who listen to me, there's nothing worse than a Negro who hates himself or herself. There's nothing worse than that, man. Because what happens is, you take like our children, and everybody says we need more Black teachers. We do, but we don't need more bougie Black teachers who hate themselves. We don't need more Black teachers who, because they hate themselves and they don't want to acknowledge that, they put that hate out there on our children. These Negroes who would tell our children, I got mine, you got to get yours. My check won't come whether you learn or not. That kind of thinking is because of what Malcolm said. And so what we have to do always is we have to continually fight to not hate ourselves. And a part of not hating ourselves is understanding our history. But it isn't just understanding the great man, great woman theory of history. No, it's understanding the role that our mothers, our grandmothers, our grandfathers, our uncles, our aunts, Big Mama, Oma, it's understanding the role that they have played in our history. Our history is not just about Martin Luther King or even Malcolm X or all of these people. Our history has been built by the masses of our people, right? Because, we all know about the Montgomery bus boycott. Most of us don't know that Claudette Colvin was arrested before Rosa Parks, which is a whole story in itself. But you can't have the Montgomery bus boycott if you just have Martin Luther King. The reason why the Montgomery bus boycott worked is because the masses of Black people got off the bus, because the masses of Black people were willing to walk to work, because the masses of Black people were willing to sacrifice. You look at Brown versus the Board of Education. Well, if you know about Briggs versus Elliott, first of all, you'd have to know that it's 5 different cases and not one. And so then if you know about Briggs versus Elliott down in Clarendon County, South Carolina, you'll know that Harry Briggs was a mechanic. He lost his job, man. Mr. McLean, like they burned down his house. And so we got to understand, man, that the price that Black people have paid to try to get us to this moment. And if we understand that more deeply, it's one of the most critical tools that we can use to not hate ourselves. So, yeah, that's all.
No, that was great. No, that was great. And I think just to even go deeper in that, we never stop and ask ourselves why they don't want us to read. Why don't they want us to be educated, right? And if you read The Education of Blacks in the South, which is a book that you put me on, and now I'm leading a book club that's going deeper into it. And what you will see is, one, you learn that Black people in the South are the reason why we have national public education.
Yes.
There were people that did not want that to happen. And one of the things that we learned in our group was there's this misnomer out there that the North was this progressive group that, wanted these black people to be educated, and the South was just racist. No, let's just be very clear. Everybody was racist. Everybody felt that black people were inferior. What the North was arguing was, well, we're going to use education to teach them how to be civilized, to teach them how to be good, good workers and things of that nature. The South were saying, these are our cash cows. Like the South, in that book, they talk about globalization early on, and the South was worried about, if we teach them how to read, they're going to want more than this free, cheap labor that we getting from them. So what they did when they saw that education was just going to keep moving forward, they took over the curriculum and did what you just pointed to, which was teaching us how to hate ourselves. You remember one of the first lessons that the schools had to promise to do? It was to teach the relationship, to strengthen the relationship of black people to understand the value of hard work. So just in talking about that, right? Like that never comes up in the history lessons. We never hear about the role that we played in actually the fact that you actually got free public education. So now when black people say, I want something different, I want something better for my kids, we get threatened with jail. I'll tell you a story just to bring this to real life. I lived in Oakland, and my mother wanted me to go to Berkeley High School. Berkeley High School it was built by UC Berkeley. It had all these classes you could take, all this stuff. And she tried to get an inter-district transfer, and she was denied. Now, my mother had a record because she had an addiction, and she had been to jail before. And she was reminded that if she got caught sending me to that school unlawfully, that she would go back to jail. Now, you tell me why in a country that we live in the most progressive bubble in the United States, we willing to send a black woman to jail because she want her kids to go to a different school. How does that fit into this, Dr. Fuller? Why is that a real reality for me in my life?
Okay, so Charles, let's go back and talk about a couple of things, and then bring me back to that particular point. Okay, so every one of you all who's listening to me should go Google the Cornerstone speech by Alexander Stephens on March 21st, 1861. Alexander Stephens was the vice president, or the forgot what they called him, of the Confederacy, because this is after the Confederacy had been formed, right? And so he gave this huge speech that became known as the Cornerstone speech. And what he said was, he said that our new government is founded on the idea, the cornerstone is the great truth that the Negro is not equal to the white man, and that slavery, the subordination to the superior race, is his natural and normal condition. This is real important for people to understand, because these ideas got woven into the framework of American society. And I'm not saying that all white people bought into this, because all white people did not. But a significant percentage of white people bought into this, and a significant percentage of people who exercise power over a long period of time in this country bought into this. So if we go back to the first question you asked about why is it that they don't want us to be educated, remember what Frederick Douglass said when he was talking about, why, he was talking to his master about what, being able to learn how to read. And what the master said is that if you teach a nigga how to read, then he's going to want to be free. That he's going to want to be.
Say it again. Say it again. Right. Let's get it up there for him.
Yeah,
we being honest today.
But here's the thing about freedom. Freedom isn't a static condition, right? Freedom is like Hotep said, freedom is like a launching pad. It's like a launching pad for you to have like direction, right? It's like it gives you a context to fight for liberation, right? So I make the argument that we were freed from slavery, but we were never liberated, right? Or you can say we were liberated, but we were not free, depending on how you want to use the concept. So because we are technically free, you then are going to have some Black people who see freedom as a way for them to become, what's the word I want to use? They see freedom as a way to get as far away as possible from the rest of these niggas. And so they don't see any connection. Like if you read The Content of Our Character by Shelby Steele, and Shelby Steele talks in this book about race fatigue. He talks about the fact that he, as like a middle-class Negro, is tired of carrying the burden of all of these poor Black people who didn't do what they should have done in America. And there's a lot of us, man, who have gotten our degrees and who now like see ourselves as like better than the rest of these Black people. And with all due respect, Charles, to your generation, who I love, there's so many of y'all I just love. But for a lot of y'all, man, y'all around here talking about your damn brand. And so that the most important thing to you is your brand. I gotta make sure that my brand. You're not talking about using your knowledge, your skills, your ability to work to eliminate the oppression of the masses of our people. You're worried about your damn brand. You're worried about how many likes you're gonna get, how many hits you're gonna get, as opposed to worried about the condition of the poorest of our people who ain't got no likes and ain't got no hits and ain't got no brand. And what they need is for you to stand up for them in these positions that you got because of the struggle of the masses of our people. Because not one of y'all who's in one of these great positions got there only because of your hard work and your sacrifice. You got there because of the sacrifices of our people, because people died so that you could be where you are today, that people suffered indignities so that you can be where you are today. And if you're one of these young Negroes who now think that your brand is more important than the struggle of our people, I ain't got nothing for you, man. Because you don't, I don't know, you just don't deserve our respect. Because respect to me is gained through struggle. And yes, I am deeply appreciative of the hard work that some of you all have gone through to get where you got to. But the purpose for getting where you got to is not just for you to be individually there. I mean, I tell this story, about how, Black people get in one of these jobs, right? And so, Black people look up and say, oh my God, we got a Black person in this job now. So, like, let me go up here and talk to them to see, what he can do for us or she can do for us. So you go talk to them. So the first thing they tell you is, hey man, like, I just got here, give me a little time so I can understand, like, what the deal is, blah, blah, blah. Just give me a little bit more time. Okay, so, we step away, give them a little bit more time. And then you go back to them and they're like, hey man, I'm about to get a promotion. So, give me a little bit more time because if I get this promotion, then, I'm gonna really be able to help you out. Oh, okay, cool. So we go back, wait for them to get the promotion. Then we come back and they're like, hey man, I'm about to retire. So you got, I don't want to do nothing right now that's going to impact my retirement. And y'all know I'm telling the truth about some of these Negroes out here. So that what I'm saying to you is that every one of us who's, let me put it in today's terms. Mm-hmm. People say how horrible the situation is today. And it is horrible, man. But I'm blessed, man. I got food, clothing, shelter, and money. I think about all of my people who have either very little of this or none of this. And this whole idea that we're all in this together, we're not all in this together in the same way. Because there are our people who are suffering and dying, man. And all of these people who making decisions that's going to exacerbate that, they're not in this together. Because there ain't no, because whenever people say we in this together, my first question is, who in the hell is the we? What we are y'all talking about? Because not all of the we are in this in the same way. And there ain't never been a we that's been in this in the same way. So I just want to say, like, for those of you who are out there who recognize that today is Malcolm X's birthday. I mean, and we're going through this virus, this pandemic. It gives all of us a chance to step back for a minute, man, and just rethink why we're on this earth. What is it? Why are we here? And I concluded a long time ago, man, that I'm here to fight for those of us who have the least. Again, if you go back to Derek Bell's book, Faces at the Bottom of the Well, he was telling this story about interviewing this Black woman in 1964. I think it was in Macomb, Mississippi, or Money, Mississippi. I can't remember exactly where the city was. And so Derek Bell was like asking her, was like, hey, why you Black people still fighting? Like, because the white people got all of the money, they got the guns, they got all of the power. Why do y'all get up every day to fight? And what she said was, I may be old, and I don't speak for everybody, but God put me on this earth to harass white people. So that to a certain extent, man, whatever it is that's going on, God put me on this earth to harass those people who would oppress our people, Black and white, brown, whatever color they are. My job is to harass your ass. Because the reality of it is, and it is true, man, and Derek Bell talks about this, that you have to fight even if victory is not possible, because not to fight is to co-sign on the injustice. And if ever there was a day to like recognize the truth of that, it's Malcolm X's birthday.
Dr. Fuller, this has been an amazing class. We're going to stop right there to leave folks understanding and wanting more for next week. We have 9 more of these sessions, 9 more of these classes. You all want to put this in your Rolodex. You want to make sure that you have us out here. We will be streaming Tuesdays, 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific time. And what I want to say before we leave, just to preview what's to come, we're going to have some shows with some friends. We're going to have some special guests on this thing. We are going to dive deeper into this, and we're going to talk more about liberation and agency. And again, this is owned by us, Black folks. We say what we want, we do what we need to do. Brother, you was preaching in that word. And what we need you all out there to do is, if you like this, if something spoke to you, you need to let us know. Let us know. Hit us up on Twitter. Leave your comments here. You need to share this message with your people, right? We didn't do much marketing for any of this. We want this to be organic. We'll do a little bit better job of that. But make sure this message reaches the people that it needs to reach, because it's only going to get hotter moving forward. Dr. Fuller, we are blessed to have you, brother. And I'm going to do my damnedest to make sure we get this out there the way it needs to be. People, you all have been attending class at Howard's University. The one good thing about this pandemic is that you getting this for free. And so check us out and do your part so we can stay here and we can keep coming. With that being said, y'all, we will see you all next time. We're going to lead us up just for a little bit so y'all can reach out. Again, mark it down. Make sure you know where to find us. You can find us wherever you saw us streaming today. That's what we'll be streaming next week. And we built this together. Dr. Fuller, anything you want to just say in closing as we let everybody go?
Yeah, I just want to, again, Charles, thank you. And I want everybody to understand how important Charles is to making this all happen and the genius that he has that he downplays. And so, again, I want to just thank him. And obviously, I want to thank any of you all who tuned in. And then the last thing I just want to say is, happy birthday to El Malik Al Shabazz, Malcolm X. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just in closing, listen, man, all these things that we got at our disposal, I don't, we are creative beyond belief, and you just got to get out there and do some stuff, man. Don't let this stuff make you hate yourself. Again, I think that was one of the biggest takeaways, is that you didn't learn how to hate yourself by yourself. It was taught to you. There was a plan around it, and we're going to keep hitting it. But we're going to do some more love next week. This is Howard's University. I am your TA, Dr. Charles Cole III, and for Dr. Howard Fuller, we will see you next time. Peace.
Peace and power.